So again, once you study um, non-equilibrium thermodynamics of open systems, there's no longer such a gap between chemistry and biology. But um, we're no longer thinking of molecules as um, these inactive, passive, sort of stupid entities. Instead, um, matter itself has a propensity to complexify. Um, and it's that, direction of time, um, of the development of the universe, from subatomic particles to atoms, hydrogen and helium to stars, um, to planets, to cells, to multicellular life. I mean, that's another leap, an irreducible leap within biology. Based on the appearance of cells, the first free-living cells, you would never suspect um, multicellular organisms to evolve, whole organized societies of cells. Um, and then, biology to psychology. Biology, I think, already includes implicit within it a kind of psychology, because to understand life, you've also got to talk about desires, um, needs, urges, instincts, drives, and every living creature has these. Um, so there's a psychic element implied already when we're doing biology. If you want to understand, I mean, we can use Darwin's theory of natural selection to understand in part um, how it is that species change over time. But Darwin's theory assumes that there are organisms that want to survive, um, and it also assumes that life, um, it assumes the self-organizing capacity of life and doesn't offer any explanation for it. Um, you know, Darwin's theory only tells us how species change, and so what we find in biology already is a form of psychology. And when we're talking about human psychology, um, that's the origin of the need to do science in the first place. Um, we can't just, if we're going to have a comprehensive philosophical perspective on the nature of things, if we're going to be a thoughtful person, at least, we're going to have to ground science in something. We can't just say, oh, science is the best because, you know, because it is, because it's a powerful institution or whatever. We have to actually understand the philosophical background of science, um, and the psychological background that people become scientists. Certain kinds of people become scientists for certain reasons, just like other people become politicians or become construction workers or lawyers or whatever. Science is a profession as much as it is, an epistemological, um, rational system of ideas. The rationality is grounded in certain communities of discourse between, human beings like you and me, highly trained human beings, but still basically human beings with certain psychological profiles. Um, and I'm not trying to say that science, the theories of science are reducible to psychology. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that, when we talk about human existence, science and the knowledge gained through a specific methodology of science will never provide us with some answer that all the rest of existence is reducible to. That, I think, is to put the cart way before the horse. We begin with, Dasein, as Heidegger would say, or just being in the world with our pure immediate experience of, suchness, of thusness, and then we enter the world in various ways through language, whether it be poetic artistic, moral, religious, philosophical, or scientific language. These are all different ways of entering into um, the world out of experience. And it's a mistake, no matter what kind of experience we're talking about, to reduce um, all the rest of the experience that is unspoken in any given saying. Um, it's a mistake to reduce everything to any given saying. There's always a background. There's always something more than we can say. And I think you would agree with this, Nicotine. You don't think that we can have ultimate knowledge. I would assume, I think I've heard you say that. You just think that scientific reductionism is the best way to get the most valid knowledge that we can have, which is much like how I described Richard Dawkins in part one. And, I guess that's okay, but that's not enough for me. I think, whether or not necessarily we can have knowledge of something more, of something, potentially ultimate, I don't think human beings can avoid striving for that kind of knowledge. I think that's a sort of psychological truth about the nature of our existence that cannot be denied if we want to lead full lives. Human beings ask questions of ultimate significance, and we desire answers for them. So, at least from my psychological point of view, existence without meaning isn't worthwhile. And certainly, there are other ways of deriving meaning from life, many ways of devising meaning, but I don't see how we can do it with having admitted already that the truth is basically, that reality is built by cranes, to use, one metaphor, or the reality that really it's all an accident. And see, describing it this way, I'm not denying that in some sense evolution is, creative. It's not determined in advance. There's not some simple teleological principle in operation. Yet even, the mechanical understanding of the natural world that follows from reductionism still employs certain final causes, certain type of teleology. It's just not made explicit. As I said, Darwin assumes that organisms want to survive, that there is that psychological desire within them, moving them to reproduce and to live. So I don't think we can avoid seeing reality in a meaningful way. In other words, even the reductionist does it when they offer their basic descriptions of how the world works. It's just because our language, whenever we even begin to speak, already assumes meaning. So, yeah, I've said a lot. I think that we basically agree. I'm just willing to go a little bit further and in stating where we go from the agreement. So, yeah, thanks for listening to all these minutes. If you've gotten this far, look forward to a response. Take it easy.